Could we could I invite the next two speakers up, please, for a discussion around the origins of discrimination, which picks up on the point made by our friend here on Morgan Stanley's table. Please come up. Can I welcome to the stage Susanne, Choi, Yuk-ping. Susanne, welcome. Thank you. Please sit down. And Hideki Sunagawa, who Susanne is is a professor at the Department of Sociology in the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and Hideki Sunagawa is a cultural anthropologist from Tama University in Japan. I'm just going to put my my headphones on because Hideki-san is going to speak in Japanese. So really, this conversation is really about where does this resistance to LGBT individuals come from historically. And I want to begin, Susanne, if I can, with you, and talking about three sort of East Asian Chinese societies, China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, each of which I think have sort of interestingly different present-day perspectives on LGBT. And I wonder if you would help us understand how those different perspectives have arisen.
Okay, so yes.
Well, first of all, tell us what those perspectives are, but also,
okay.
how they arise.
I think, now even talking about the names of these societies is becoming very political. So I know that this is a business audience, but I'm going to talk about politics because I think this is not avoidable.
Let's talk about it, absolutely.
So when we're thinking about Asia, we tend to put too much emphasis on culture. But if we look at the three Chinese societies, China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, they share more or less the same cultural heritage. But then the LGBT community's rights are very different in these three societies. In China, although China decriminalized homosexuality in 1997, and then in 2001, it removed from the classification of homosexuality as a mental illness. But then now there's no law to protect homosexual people from discrimination, and then same-sex marriage is not legally recognized by the state. And most worryingly, since last year, we identified signs that the Chinese government is tightening its control of the LGBT organizations, and then increasing censorship of the media, social media. For example, last year, the Chinese government shut down a very prominent dating app for lesbians, and then it also ban homosexual, the so-called normal sexual lifestyles, including homosexuality, from any video programs. And then there's a very LGBT organization Speak Out. Its activities were canceled or postponed because the organizers were detained by the government. And so I think this is signs that the space, because we know that in the 1950s and 1970s, homosexuality was heavily prosecuted in the different political upheavals in China. But since the 1980s, because of the economic reform, the LGBT community, they have a more opportunity to develop. But now we're seeing, some reversal of this openness. And so I think this is quite worrying. And then Taiwan is, somebody asked if Japan is the most progressive. My answer is no, Taiwan is the most progressive in terms of LGBT rights. And so Taiwan and China, they share the same historical heritage. But Taiwan now has, not only they doesn't have laws against homosexuality, it has an anti-discrimination law, and the Ministry of Education requires textbooks to promote acceptance of gays and lesbians. And also, openly gay and lesbian individuals can serve in the military. And last year, the court, we all know that the court judged that the law banning same-sex marriage is unconstitutional and asked the government to amend the law within 2 years. So we believe that this is, to pave the way for marriage equality for same-sex couples. Hong Kong is more or less in between. Hong Kong decriminalized homosexuality in 1991, very early, compared to other Asian societies. But then since then, we have been stuck there. A few years ago, the EOC commissioned a large-scale project to understand if there's public support for the legislation against discrimination. And there's a lot of public support, especially among the younger generation. And the EOC endorsed this suggestion and then submitted to the governments and urged the governments to start consultation. But then 3 years have passed and then we haven't heard anything from the governments. So I think Hong Kong is like in between, China and Taiwan.
I mean, to that point, and to your point that democracy is an important factor in, let's talk about politics, an important factor in the way in which LGBT acceptance arrives in different countries. I mean, certainly Taiwan, obviously on the ladder of democracy, is certainly the most democratic of these three. Hong Kong somewhere in the middle, and China not. But coming back to China, can I just, China's system and China's Communist Party is not anti-gay per se, is it? It's really more a question about the anti-public expression of rights of any kind, if you want to put it that way, isn't it? And so I think that it's much more, so trying to place where, from a discrimination, the origins of discrimination point of view, China is not really anti-gay in that sense, is it? It's just at this point in time, the public expression of rights.
I think you're right. I think the Chinese government is not anti-gay in the sense that it's not ideologically anti-gay or anti-LGBTI. I think the Chinese government, the reason why is increasing media censorship, or the reason why is cracking down on LGBT organizations, is because the Chinese government is really afraid of collective organization and mobilization. So they're controlling the media or they're controlling LGBT organizations, not because it's ideologically against this type of practices, but because it doesn't want these organizations become collective forces for public mobilization. Because then it's not a democracy exactly. And the regime is probably feeling very insecure. So, if I let, LGBT organization organize and become very, visible social force. So how about the feminists? How about the labor rights activists? So everybody will be organizing. And I think this is what the Chinese government is concerned about.
So Hideki-san, can I just pick up on that? Because I think there's some interesting points there. I mean, Japan's, in a similar way to China, I think Japan's tolerance, historical tolerance to same-sex relations has been quite strong, hasn't it? But yet, post-Meiji, the Meiji Restoration in 1868, that began to change. Could you just give us a sense of the landscape of the origins of modern discrimination, in a sense?
Okay. はい、日本ではよく、江戸時代までは男性同性間の性行為であるとか恋愛には寛容であったというふうに言われています。でもこのことについて、考えるときに2つ注意しなくちゃいけないことがあると私は思っています。一つはまずどんな社会も、一枚岩であったり固定的ではないということです。ですから江戸時代もよく文献を見てみればその時々に同性間の性行為を否定する言葉はたくさんあります。そしてまたもう一つ注意しなくてはいけないのは江戸時代においては、LGBT など性的マイノリティ、今私たちが言うところの LGBT や性的マイノリティに寛容であったかのように語られますが、でも語られているのは男性同性間の性行為であったり恋愛だけです。例えば女性の恋愛についてはほとんど記録はありません。ある記録も女性同士がおそらく恋愛関係にあった2人が自殺をしたというような記録だけです。また最近 NHK が日本の性の歴史についての放送を流したんですけれども、その中でも語られていたんですが、江戸時代の終わりに私たちが今でいうところのトランス男性として生きていた人がそのトランスしていることが発覚して幕府からつまり当時の政府から禁じられるということがあったという記録があると。でも彼はその後もトランスを続けてしまったがためにトランスを続けたがために当時の中では非常に重い罰である離島へ流されてしまう、離島へ追いやられてしまうということがあったという記録があります。ですから 江戸時代が性的マイノリティに対して寛容であって、それが明治時代に入って急に変わったということではなく、常にさまざまな価値観やモラルや倫理というものがどの社会でもせめぎ合っている。でそのせめぎ合っているものが何らかのきっかけで力を持つようになるというふうに私は考えています。ですから江戸時代に確かにある時期には男性同性間の恋愛であるとか性行為がさほど抑圧されていなかった時代もあるかもしれない。でも同じ江戸時代でも幕府が変われば、つまり政府が変われば抑圧が強くなった時代もある。そして明治時代に入って確かに重要だったのは、ドイツで生まれたセクソロジー、性科学が入ってきて、その性科学の言説をある人たちが使ったということです。その言説というのは同性愛は病気であるといったようなものです。で日本では実は同性間の性行為などを禁止する法律があった時期はほとんどありません。明治時代に、10年ほどあったんですけれども、同性愛を罰するということは定着しなかった。
Can I just ask you briefly, could you just tell us then, as you spoke about the major restoration, about how the forces of, in a sense, westernization and modernization changed attitudes then? Because quite clearly those attitudes were more tolerant before the restoration, changed and influenced attitudes towards same-sex relations in Japan.
そうですね。ただ日本にそのセクソロジーが入ってきて病理化した病気として見るようになったという意味で力を持つようになりました。でもそれはそれだけで変わったわけではなくて、もともと日本の中にもその価値観を持っている人たちがいて、その人たちがそれを利用したと言えると思います。ですから常に私が思っているのは、文化がある文化に一方的に入って一方的に変えるというよりは、入ってきたものをもともとある人たちが使って力を持つようになるというふうに思ってるんですね。ですから単純に一方的に入って変わるというよりも、常に総合的な関係にあるというふうに私は思っています。
Thank you, Hideki. Susanne, can I just, there are other factors, of course, in this question of origins of discrimination, and one of the but one of the sort of factors, should I say, in China, and indeed, to some degree, Japan, has been the family sort of filial attitudes and strong filial attitudes. How are those, because traditionally, you could be gay in China as long as you had a family. But now that attitude, clearly with the younger generation, the real generational shift in attitudes towards LGBT rights and LGBT people generally, is that changing now? Is that family influence so strong as it was?
I think China is changing, but something hasn't changed as fast as the others. All the Asian society, we have seen a decline in marriage rate, except China. So in China, the majority of the population is still expected to get married. And there's some scholars argue that China is changing, but then there's also so-called neo-feminism, because now it's a market economy, and people realize that there's so much uncertainty, and they have to rely on the family. And because of the one-child policy, parents are investing a lot in the only child. And also parents and their children's emotional and intimacy is becoming probably, we haven't had this type of emotional intimacy probably in our whole history. So this factors is making it really interesting and paradoxical. On the one hand, then we have much more space for individuals to practice homosexual behavior. But on the other hand, the families still expect the individuals to get married, sons and daughters, to get married and to have children. So in China, in the last 10 years, we have seen a rapid rise in so-called nominal marriage or sham marriage, functional marriage. They have different names. Basically, they're contractual marriages, conducted by gays and lesbians to give the service of homosexuality to, reduce or to just to meet their parents' expectation. Or some my respondents, and they told me that I conducted a nominal marriage because I want to help my parents so they don't need to face the questions from relatives. Chinese New Year or weddings, these are unbearable moments because then you go ask so many questions about when are you getting married, when are you getting children. So I think family is a major obstacle, but we also seen a lot of very creative ways to try to change this situation. The LGBT community in China in the last year, they tried to mobilize parents and ask parents to come out. Those parents who have accepted their children, now they're coming out and they're speaking to the whole society. And I think their message and their stories are very powerful because they're the parents who, gone through the process of sadness, of shock, of disappointment, and now they finally accepted their children. And so their stories are more, persuasive for other parents. So we have seen, this still enormous pressure for LGBTI to get married and to have children, but we also have seen, creative strategies to change that.
So one of the paradoxical things about China and the changing social attitudes in China, which are often changing very quickly, and often those attitudes are quite progressive, is that places like Hong Kong can seem quite old-fashioned by comparison. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Okay, I think there's a fair assessment. Hong Kong people tend to think that they're more superior compared to mainland Chinese in terms of culture. And we can see that in this rise of anti-migration sentiments. But recently, I just returned from Shanghai. I interviewed a lot of LGBTI individuals and their parents. And it really surprised me, how far they have gone. And in terms of Hong Kong, I think in Hong Kong is that we have a very vibrant LGBTI community and young people. The great majority of young people, even those who are relatively conservative in their economic policies, for example, we'll call them localists. The great majority of the localists, not like the far right in Europe, they support LGBTI rights. So in this sense, Hong Kong is also a liberal society. But now, why we are stuck, in our legislation to protect LGBTI community from discrimination? I think because Hong Kong doesn't have democracy, and then also because the administration is very conservative, because we have a lot of devoted high government officials. They showcase how they go to the church. This is very symbolic, and I think most importantly is because in Hong Kong now, LGBTI issues is really marginalized because we have so many political issues. So now we can ask the legislators, can you just push forward for consultation? And the legislators, the pro-democratic legislators, pro-LGBTI legislators, they will tell you there are so many issues. The priority for LGBT rights is very low. And then also, sadly, we have some pro-establishment legislators now are campaigning based on anti-LGBT sentiments. So we have some, ironically, they are being appointed into the EOC.
So it's a very complex picture, isn't it?
Yes,
both in Hong Kong and clearly in Japan. I wonder if anybody ever has any thoughts and questions. We have a few minutes left yes, down there on the table, please.
Okay, my mother always told me never talk about politics or religion to strangers, but here we go.
Could you just say your organization, your name and organization?
My name is Betty. I'm from Lipesh and Gay Games and a few things.
Thanks.
Religion, and this will be a question to Professor Chow. You brushed very, very rapidly on what's happening in Hong Kong. I'm not sure what's happening in mainland China, in Taiwan, but it seems that some, I would say, foreign religion or foreign kind of, I think I will have to call the evangelicals, were really powerful in their message and very powerful within the government in their message of, anti-LGBT. Can you give us a little bit of history about that? Do you know anything of why this is such an important concept that has been very well imported from foreign countries, and it's quite recent. And I just
The religious
say,
basis of,
yep.
we have the religious basis
Yep.
of discrimination in Hong Kong.
I think, of course, when we are talking about what happened in Hong Kong, we tend to blame the foreign forces. But churches in the UK, they have changed a lot. Even Ireland elected its first gay prime minister. And so, the churches in other countries are changing. Of course, then you have also the rise of more fundamental, religious groups. But I think in Hong Kong it's complex. The churches in Hong Kong, I think it's a big spectrum. On the one end of the spectrum, you have very anti-LGBT churches, but they're the minority though. But they're very vocal. They're very visible because they say things which are outrageous, are crazy. And then the media loves them. So the media is giving them a lot of airtime. I don't think the airtime they occupy in the media representing, or is representative of the numbers they represent. In Hong Kong, we have a large-scale survey. Even religious people, nearly 50% support legislation to protect the rights of LGBTI. So if you look at the church, the majority of the churches in Hong Kong, I think they are not supportive, but they are not, or they haven't also vocally against or voiced out their resistance. And then we have pro-LGBTI churches. They are also quite active and vocal. But the problem of pro-LGBT churches that their narrative is often very complex. When you talk about human rights, it's kind of boring stuff. But at the spectrum, those who are anti-LGBTI, they talk about, very crazy ideas, so they're eye-catching. So, you have these two groups. They are both not the majority, but one group, because it's eye-catching, the ideas, commodified by the media, so it gets so much more media attention. Yeah.
Hideki-san, could I just come to you for a final set of comments? This
Hi.
sort of sense, as you were saying down there, that LGBT rights are Western values, that quite often there's a conservative backlash against them. In Japan, there is an argument amongst many LGBT people that, because Japan has had a historically tolerant attitude towards same-sex relations, that, LGBT discriminations don't really exist in Japan, and that Japanese people shouldn't be tackling those, discriminations in the way that they've been tackled in the West. How would you characterize, should I say, the broad spectrum of anti-discrimination, anti-discrimination activities in Japan, and how do you see that?
はい、確かに日本ではもともと同性間の、関係とかに対して寛容であったなどの言い方から日本には差別がないという言い方がよくあります。でも実際にはやっぱ分かりにくい形であちこちにあるんですね。で差別が目立たないのは日本ではカミングアウトをする人が少ないからです。でカミングアウトすればさまざまな、ネガティブな反応が返ってくることも少なくないです。でそういう中でやっぱり同性間の関係あるいはトランスジェンダーの権利などというものは別に西洋だけのものではなくてその考え方を共有する人たちは日本の中でももともといるわけですからその価値観は別に西洋だけのものではないと。で常に先ほど言ったようにある価値観が入ってくるときにはそれを取り入れる人たちがそこにいるわけでそういった意味で権利に対する見方もどっか一部の地域のものではなくてもうすでにグローバルなものとしてあるというふうに私は思っています。
Unfortunately, we have come to the end of this session. I hope that illuminates to some degree, at least in these very complex situations, some of the origins of discrimination. Do please thank me. Do please warmly thank, definitely don't thank me, warmly thank Susanne and Hideki-san for that conversation. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Hideki-san.